Good afternoon, everyone. This is Chair Charlie Zully of the Metropolitan Council. This is the Committee of the Whole, January 19th, 2022. And just to do a little functory housekeeping, we are continuing to hold all council meetings, committee meetings, advisory committee meetings virtually in accordance with Minnesota Statutes 13D.021. And if you are following this meeting as a member of the public, we invite you to type and submit comments, questions to our public through public.info@metc.state.mn.us, and we'll get back to you quickly. By virtue of the nature of the meeting, we're going to have roll calls, and to establish a quorum, I'll call on Bridget to call the roll.
Councilmember Barber.
Here.
Chamblis.
Chamblis is here.
Cummings.
Here.
Ferguson.
Here.
Redson. Redson. Gonzalez.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Lee.
Here.
Willigren.
Here.
Lindstrom.
Here.
Muse.
Here.
Sterner. Sterner. Vento. Vento. Wolf.
Here. Wolf is
Thank
here
you.
too.
Zarin. Thank you.
Zarin's present.
Chair Zelli.
I'm here. We have a quorum. And the first item is to approve the agenda, which was sent out in advance. We don't need a roll call, but without objection, I will assume it is approved, which brings us to the minutes from January 5th. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Willigren moves approval.
Thank you, Councilmember. Is there a second?
Second by Gonzalez.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any discussion, corrections, additions? All right, hearing none. Bridget, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barber.
Aye.
Chamblis.
Aye.
Cummings.
Aye.
Ferguson.
Aye.
Redson.
Aye.
Gonzalez.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Willigren.
Aye.
Lindstrom.
Aye.
Muse.
Aye.
Sterner. Sterner. Vento.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Zarin.
Aye.
Chair Zelli.
Aye. The minutes are approved. So we have two information items today on the agenda. But before we get to those, I'd like to give Councilmember Ferguson an opportunity to address the council with something that he'd like to announce. Chris.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to announce that at the end of the month, I'll be leaving the council. As I've shared with the chair, fortunately or unfortunately in COVID, it's led to a merger of families, and that merger of families is going to caused me to move out of Eden Prairie at the end of March. So, and move into another part of the metro area. So as a result, I need to resign from the council at the end of the month, and it's been truly been a great honor to serve with this group, and I think we've made lots of progress and hopefully laid the groundwork for lots more. I think many of us would like to have seen more progress with respect to equity and some of the other things that we've tried to work on, but I think we've got a great framework to continue that progress, and a great framework to build on, and hopefully continue to make improvements for our region. So with that, I will be obviously around. I'll still be heavily involved in the business community and serving on boards and other things, but I won't be able to serve on the council anymore. So thank you all for your help and support. And if there's anything I can do to continue our work, please let me know.
Well, Chris, thank you for sharing your news. This is, I'm sure I should say congratulations, because this is not bad news for you. It is not what we would like to hear for us, because you've been such a valuable member of this council and chairing the management committee and advancing a lot of really important work in a very practical way, not just equity procurements, but just an equity framework overall. And speaking selfishly, having another private sector person here is always a great perspective that you've given. And so we'll have time, we'll have more time. So I don't want to take the whole agenda, but I just want to say on behalf of everybody here how much we appreciate your work and you personally. And this is not goodbye, as you say. We'll certainly have ways to connect, and you're not leaving till the end of the month. So thank you for being here until then. And you're leaving for all the right reasons, sadly, for us.
Thanks, Charlie.
I think we should march into the first item on our agenda, which is a Metro Transit Police Work Group update, which we've been hearing every month, and that has been led by Council Member and Work Group Chair Reva Chamblis. Take it away, Reva.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you for the opportunity to provide this month's work group update. Our plan is to conclude our work group's recommendations by February 28th. And we will be, we have overviewed several topics. You can advance a slide since December 15th. At the Committee of the Whole, and we also had many other meetings, one of which was a public comment opportunity on December 17th. On January 4th, we worked on developing a framework for the recommendations. And January 14th, we identified the categories for issues and gaps and a process and framework for developing goals. Our work group will report back with our recommendations, as said, at the end of February, and that means that we have 3 more work group meetings, January 28th, February 11th, and February 25th, and 1 more Committee of the Whole update after today's meeting on February 16th. Our work group will recommend our vision, goals, and suggested ideas for strategies and data moving forward for the Metro Transit and Metro Transit Police Department. And we're recommending that they develop an action plan to advance the recommended goals and report back to the council on a date to be determined. Our December 17th public comment opportunity allowed us to hear from constituents from many different organizations and many different individuals. 10 people provided official comments during that meeting, with 3 comments submitted in writing. The people that commented represented many different organizations and also included Metro Transit and Metro Transit Police Department officers. That meeting summarized, we have summarized the comments from that meeting, and we heard clearly that transit policing is both an environmental and racial justice issue, that systems, and we're acknowledging that systems across the country are grappling with similar issues, and we want Metro Transit to draw on best practices from other transit agencies. We heard that we need to improve route reliability and that frequency and reliability of our transit services is very key to public safety and perceptions of safety. Metro Transit has needed to reduce service due to an operator shortage in the region, and we will be looking at ways and recommending ways that reliability and frequency can enhance public safety. We heard about experiences from our transit users about poor behavior and conditions on some of our vehicles and platforms, and too few officers being visibly present. Additional concerns were more officer training is needed, and dealing with the infrequency of in-person trainings due to our COVID pandemic. Because of the COVID pandemic and other conditions, there are concerns about officer retention and why officers are leaving for other departments. Additional concerns were about working conditions for operators and police officers and community service officers for higher presence on our vehicles and trains, etc., including communication that is between officers, police, and our Metro Transit staff. There are concerns about police treatment of riders and use of force, and including our youth riders as well. Additionally, we heard that we need a better resource allocation in terms of the growth of our Metro Transit budget, where officers are deployed, and an emphasis on people over things. Consider other conditions when improving public safety, including equitably distributed clean, heated, well-lit shelters, and reducing transit fares. More effective and frequent public engagement and communication was deemed important, and the need to bring community lived experience into our policies and practices. As we know, Met Council has requested support for administrative citations for fare evasion, and that is related to effective use of resources. And there were additional comments about the expanded use of the CSO program and the need for ambassadors. For the general direction of unarmed personnel that can focus on better customer service, connecting people to services, and help with de-escalating situations. The CSO expansion might be a step in the right direction, but it's only available to people on a law enforcement career track. Concerns about CSOs carrying weapons were heard, and also concerns with MTPD officers being armed on our transit vehicles. Metro Transit needs to provide more information on our CSO program and goals and performance. Our work group has talked about values that should guide our recommendations. Floated to the top are keywords like dignity, fairness, just, being anti-racist and deploying an anti-racist framework, quality, efficiency, a positive impact in our recommendations, decisions, and systems level approach with our stakeholders, and a community of accountability with the goal of safety and security. We developed a working list of values and principles and criteria such as valuing safety and security on transit with dignity, fairness, and justness for all, and our principles to rebuild confidence in the quality of transit for all, and the broad diversity of community we serve, including ability, race, ethnicity, gender, and age, while applying an anti-racist lens and practice to this work. Approach towards recommendations involved 3 different categories, one of which was to provide a quality transit experience for all through an anti-racist, equitable, and inclusive approach to transit safety, security, and policing. And doing that, we should address systemic issues with community relationships and through partnerships. These recommendations should demonstrate responsive leadership and accountability. We developed a structure to support these concepts with issues and gaps that were identified through all of our meetings, and a structure for addressing goals, a structure for addressing these issues and gaps through goals, and then developing a framework for strategies that the Metro Transit should include in their action plan. And we collected information and data which will continue to be a part of our recommendations and strategies. Our first vision is to provide a quality transit experience for all through an anti-racist, equitable, and inclusive approach to transit safety, security, and policing. Several ideas and issues were identified that our group should pass on to the Metro Transit Police Department for addressing. One of the issues was problematic conditions and behavior at facilities on transit service vehicles that we talked about, and that employees and riders feel unsafe, and it's important to provide quality experience for all. We know that ridership is down significantly during the pandemic, and has led to a lower sense of safety, and that building ridership may lead to an increased feeling of safety. Unreliable or infrequent transit service can contribute to riders feeling unsafe, and we need to consistently and effectively apply an anti-racist lens to the policy practices and procedures that come out of these recommendations. There's a need to engage the public to identify best practices along with our stakeholders, and we need to develop and implement a plan to engage with youth, including the need to collect, maintain, review, and act on data about our interactions with youth. We should demonstrate a commitment to valuing the broad diversity of people we serve, including gender, race, ethnicity, people living with disabilities, and age, and provide an official presence of people with authority and skill on our systems. We want to have safe, consistent, quality experience for all on buses, trains, and facilities, ensuring that transit stops and facilities are brightly lit and clean. These are some of the ideas that we discussed on January 14th, addressing violations of the Code of Conduct and laws, including a team of police, non-swarm ambassador personnel, and maintenance employees to help increase the official presence with authority and skill. We want to improve transit service in terms of reliability and frequency, employing public engagement to identify best practices that value the broad diversity of communities we serve. We want to measure customer satisfaction, the number of customer and employee complaints, to ensure that no one experiences discrimination. And we also want to identify the number of incidents and concerns related to our customer service. This work group recognizes a correlation between the increasing ridership and providing a safe, consistent, and quality experience for all. Achieving a safe, consistent, and quality experience is important to rebuilding ridership, which in turn could also improve a sense and perception of safety. We want to address systemic issues with community relationships and partnerships. The issues and gaps that were noted from our discussions is that the Metro Transit Police Department is responsible for a large system that crosses many boundaries and jurisdictions. We need to strengthen our relationships with local government and other stakeholders to improve conditions around our transit facilities that are beyond the transit's jurisdictions. We need to share information and Metro Transit experience with city, county attorneys about the impacts of their decisions on our work and our community. As policymakers, the council has the opportunity to convene others and leverage their influence to address systemic problems that contribute to issues observed on transit, including untreated mental illness, chemical addiction, homelessness, etc. We want to ensure solutions that employ a systemic level approach. The legislature has not passed administrative citations policy change, which we requested, and would allow non-sworn personnel to inspect fares and issue citations for fare noncompliance. This would in turn allow Metro Transit Police Department to redeploy officers to better focus on public safety needs. Effective communication between Metro Transit and the council is needed so that council members are aware of and can act on issues affecting transit security and policing in a timely manner. We want to empower our leaders and chief to share information with council members. With more regular information, council members can act before conditions are dire or worsen. Communicate and engage with other jurisdictions communication and engaging with other jurisdictions should include law enforcement agencies and work together toward solutions with immediacy and regularity. We want to pass the administrative citations legislation and have that be passed to continue to advocate for administrative goals. In the interim, we want to continue our effort to increase official presence on the system. That is something that we can control now, and we will continue to do until the administrative citations legislation is passed. Demonstrating responsive leadership and accountability is also important, and we've identified issues related to that. We want to ensure that all are treated with dignity, fairness, and in a just manner, establishing expectations, definitions of both positive and negative outcomes of our decisions and actions. We should evaluate policies, practices, and procedures to ensure that we reduce those negative impacts on communities. Council members need more opportunity to regularly converse with staff, our chief and general manager regarding transit safety security, in addition to receiving structured presentations. Develop regular reporting of qualitative data, quantitative data, and other information to assess performance and outcomes. We want to ensure leadership is responsive to employee needs and concerns using surveys and other forms of direct employee feedback, and seek improved communication on what happens with that feedback. Strengthen accountability by ensuring roles and responsibilities for transit policing and safety are clear to council members, employees, and the general public. These resources should be efficiently supported and managed. And we see a need to address issues related to officer retention. There needs to be mutual accountability or community of accountability towards involving our external stakeholders. We need to respond timely to constituents' feedback regarding safety on transit and set standards for responding and assessing the staff capacity to meet those standards. And finally, assessing training for officers and operators. Our next steps is to have a meeting on January 28th with our police work group and review the notes from our prior meeting to continue identifying any additional goals that will be the base for strategies and reviewing obstacles to meeting those goals and strategies, as well as reviewing the data and information that is needed for moving forward. Our next Committee of the Whole meeting will be February 16th, where we will provide another update. And then on February 28th, the final recommendations will go to the Metro Transit Police Department. Are there any questions?
Well, thank you, Councilmember Chamblis. That is a lot of information, but it's really a compilation of a lot of work over the past 6 months or so. Let's open it up and see if there's any questions at this point. Molly.
Chair, I don't really have a question, but I just wanted to make a comment that these updates have been just really, really helpful. And Reva, you've done a wonderful job. This has been a huge undertaking, really, really important to the goals and values of this council. And I just would like to express my appreciation for what you have done in leading this group and what is coming out of it. I look forward to the final report and recommendations. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Anyone else? Well, I think that clearly you have several more meetings, and we're going to hear more kind of thorough as we march toward recommendations in February, and then as we finalize it going forward in the year. So I'm really glad we took the time to get it right. This is a very thoughtful approach, and of course, part of it is how we work with staff to implement these changes. Any other questions, thoughts at this point? All right, well, I want to thank you, Councilmember Chamblis, and frankly, all those that have been on the work group. I know there's many of you, and we'll stay tuned. And please call on any of us if you'd like feedback or additional support along the way. It is important work, and given some of the interest from we've seen from the media, this is, and now with the legislature, I think this issue isn't going to go away. Certainly for us, an important, if not the most important priority. Well, having said that, I think we can move to the last information item on the agenda today, which is to discuss a settlement with Lunda McCrossan Joint Venture relating to the civil construction contract for the Southwest Light Rail Project. May I first, before we do that, have a motion to close the meeting? Councilmember Barber.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I move that this meeting be closed to the public pursuant to Minnesota Statutes Section 13D.05 Subdivision 3B and applicable case law so that the council can discuss with our legal counsel in a confidential setting attorney-client privilege matters.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Wolf seconds.
Thank you, Councilmember Wolf. And I will actually add that a public body, by a majority vote in a public meeting, may decide to hold a closed meeting under Section 13D.05, Subdivision 3B of the Minnesota Open Meeting Law to discuss attorney-client privileged matters. So discussing this matter in a confidential setting will permit the council to engage in candid conversations and discussions and resolve this matter in a way that benefits the council and the public. Discussions during the closed portion of this meeting to discuss attorney-client privileged matters relating to a civil construction settlement with Lunda McCrossan Joint Venture. So, having said that, we have a motion and a second. Bridget, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barber.
Aye.
Chamblis.
Aye.
Cummings.
Aye.
Ferguson.
Aye.
Fredson.
Aye.
Gonzalez.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Berligren.
Aye, here.
Lindstrom.
Aye.
Muse.
Aye.
Sterner. Sterner. Vento.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Zarin.
Aye.
Chair Zelli.
Aye, that motion carried. Thank you so much. And before we close the meeting to discuss this matter, I just would like to inform members of the public who may be monitoring the meeting. And for the record, the council will adjourn immediately after the discussion of the information item, and that the council will not have any discussions or conduct any business after this information item is complete. So for the record, please note that this meeting was closed to the public at 4:32 p.m. on January 19th, 2022.